everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, your go-to destination for all things real estate investing, and the markets. And my name's Curtis Reitzel. I've been a realtor since 2015, and I'm also a passionate real estate investor. In this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with investor couple Alex and Kaely Pal to discuss their real estate investing journey and how they scaled to, as of the recording, $24 million in real estate in just under 100 units. We cover everything of how they have grown their business as a successful husband and wife combination, joint ventureship, out of province, and also out of country real estate investing as they are investing in the States. I also run what's called the Tri-City Real Estate Investor Club within the Waterloo region. So we've hosted over 80 events, and we have just shy of 1,000 members on our Meetup and Facebook group. This interview that we did was actually hosted in person at my office in Kitchener. So if you want to participate in these events and come in person, the link to register to be part of our Tri-City Real Estate Investor Club will be in the link below in this video here. But sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode with Alex and Kaely Pal.
I have, if you see some printed things on the wall, I have some QR codes. So for the newcomers that are here that want to be kept up to date with future events, the weekly newsletter, investment opportunities, just scan that QR code. You open up your phone, go to camera, scan, it takes you to a link, you put your info in, and then you automatically get inputted into the Investor Club to keep up to date with everything going on, all things Investor Club. So before we get into this wonderful interview, just introduce myself to people that don't know. So I'm the founder of the club, and me and my brother, we started it back in 2016. I actually am, I just noticed there's a screen up there that has the matching slide. That's great. I've been a realtor now for 9 years. I got licensed 2015. I was 21, a month before I turned 22. Just celebrating my 31st birthday, so it's pretty cool. There's just kind of funny because the first 2 years, I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's called like the Valley of Death, that like 95% of agents don't make it through.
I thought it was the first year.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm just glad I made it through. I'm also a real estate investor as well, so that was a big part of why I got into real estate. Was I remember reading, the typical Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and the Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, and then got inspired and got connected with extended family, got into real estate. And I also do some private lending as well. Not as big on that right now, but I do some of that. I'm also born and raised in KW. My, like 5 minutes down the street is where I guess I'm from. So it's my stomping grounds. Passionate about fitness and health. And fun fact, I've been to gone Africa 3 times. So just a little bit on getting to know me. So schedule is kind of a little bit off right now. But we'll have some fun tonight. You're welcome to leave at any time, but at 7:30 we'll wrap up, and then we'll switch to the socializing part. And the security system, they were saying something about having to be out by 9 o'clock. So if we're not all out by 9 o'clock, we open up a front door, security system goes off, so let's all make sure we're out by 9. So my mission with the club really is to create a community where, thriving investors come together to take meaningful action, towards achieving their goals. Because we're all going to come into this club from different vantage points. Some of us are starting off, some of us have a substantial portfolio, and everywhere in between. So if we can all help each other in whatever which way possible to achieve each other's goals, I call that a win. Skip that. So I want to touch on this real quick. So I've been doing this more so recently over the past year or so with clients, and touching on return on equity. I guess it's kind of like an investor corner before we get into Alex and Kaely here. So what a lot of investors focus on is return on investment. And what a small percentage of investors focus on is return on equity. And the difference is, as you grow your real estate portfolio, you're going to be building an equity position in those properties. And that's trapped equity, that's your capital. So I created this Excel spreadsheet here, and with the assistance of ChatGPT, which by the way is really cool for creating stuff, just saying. So I created this Excel spreadsheet to kind of give some perspective, and this is just an example spreadsheet here. So really the purpose and the goal is to figure out the total market value of the properties, and then you figure out the appreciation rate, which I put in 3%. So you get a gain, which is $129,000. And then what you need to do is figure out the total mortgages that are owed against all the properties, your entire portfolio, and that's your debt. Then figure out the debt pay down. Essentially what you're trying to do is figure out the total gain for your portfolio. In this example, I put no cash flow, just to kind of make it simpler here, but the total gain is $184,000, and then you take it by your equity position, which is $2.6 million in this example here, and that's a 7% return on equity, which is cool to know. So if you have, holding of investment properties, let's say 5 or 10 properties, this gives you the ability to look at the return of the equity that's trapped in your properties. And then what I did here is I did a side-by-side comparison. So let's say you kept down the path of 7.08, I'm just going to say 7. You kept down the path versus, let's say 20%, you can change that. I have this sheet, I'm happy to share it with anybody. And then the far right is where I will draw the attention to, which is the difference. If you go down the 20%, the difference there, and you can see in year 5, just to make it simple here, it's almost $2 million in growth that you would make if you had higher rates of return of 20%. And then in year 10, was that, I think that's 8.6 million. So just some good perspective for investors that have, a reasonable portfolio and have equity. I think going through this exercise is really good just to get a perspective of how your rates of return are doing in your portfolios. And that kind of leads to the discussion of what, a fair amount of investors are doing, going out of province and restocking their investment properties, refinancing to, push up their rate of returns, because the past 10 years, as we all have experienced, have been a great run up, but now investors are looking to kind of take things to another level. So anyways, I wanted to touch on this because I don't know, I'm a math nerd. I find this stuff interesting, but if anybody would ever want to have me do this with you or you want access to the sheet, happy to send it your way. Just because we're a little bit behind schedule here, I'll mosey along. I'll kind of make this one short. So we have a great realtor relationship out in Edmonton, actually a few, but one of them in particular, he moved out west with his family, and they were a realtor actually in this office, and then they moved out west. They've been buying investment properties, and they got licensed as realtors, and they have really good connections with builders out west in Edmonton. So there's a lot of great new construction product that we're working on as a team. So if anybody's interested in getting, numbers on, new construction in Edmonton, we're happy to chat. Here's just some pictures of, what the fit and finishes are, really beautiful and attract great tenants. The next events, I am very close to scheduling. I have an investor confirmed for September, Mike Rockall, and planning for Adrian Panozzo, hopefully for August, just have to iron it out. But then the goal is monthly. That would be really great to do an investor interview every single month. So just so you guys know, I'm working on it. Hopefully within the next, week or two, I'll have that announced out to the club, and then everybody can get the details there. So enough about me, Alex and Kaely. If we could all have a spontaneous round of applause, and you both can come on up to the front of the room. So you can sit wherever you would like here.
Why don't you sit outside?
Okay. So I have a feeling we're going to go past the 7 o'clock Q&A here.
We've got childcare, so we're good.
Oh man, I'm glad I fall off the bed.
Are you good? Because this one's more stable. Seriously, we can swap.
I think it's just going to twist all the time. Look at you. There. Okay.
We're good.
We're good.
Is it on?
If it twists, we're going to switch. We're going to switch seats. This is
Okay.
super sturdy.
I think it'll be okay. It doesn't feel like it's moving.
Yeah, I was just asking if you could hear me, but we're good. We're all set.
We're good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I also too have waters all lined up here if you guys need water. So yeah, I also have. Pardon me.
You're a gracious host.
Trying to look out for. Yeah. So I have about like 50 questions in here. I have a feeling we're probably going to cover like 5 of them because the conversations just normally naturally flow.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, thanks for coming out, spending your time with us this evening. I guess if you guys could just start off just telling us a little bit about yourself and, how you got into real estate. And you got, whoever wants to start off, and then we take it from there.
So I actually, and I met the right sense of this, when I got my real estate license, we were at an event called Bold. So this is back in 2016. And Alex and I at the time were on the same real estate team. So that's how we met. And we met, and I think within a few months of dating, we actually bought a house together that we didn't live in. It was just an investment property that we bought kind of on a whim that we still own. And then we started living together in a living room of a house that he already owned, which was a room rental, which was a ton of fun.
Lived in the living room. Called it the walkout closet because the front foyer was made into a walk-in closet.
And then we bought a condo, and then the condo we still own. And then from there, I don't know, I just think our path was always in alignment with our goals and our vision of investing in real estate. I personally hadn't invested in real estate until I got my real estate license. Now, the team that I had joined was Mark Loeffler's team. So that was primarily working with investors. So I was a buyer's agent on that team. He was the listing agent. So all I did was work with investors, and I had a huge interest in it, and I had a pretty good aptitude for it. So I just was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And at the time, I was just saving to buy a house, coming up in a house where the mindset was like, you only ever own one home, and like you spend your whole life paying that off. That's it. So the idea of owning multiple properties was just revolutionary to me at that time. And then it kind of opened the floodgates, and the world of investing is pretty wild. There literally is no ceiling. So that is the most amazing part of it. And there's so many opportunities.
Yeah. So I got introduced into real estate through the Toronto Real Estate Expo. Actually, it was Donald Trump who was the keynote speaker at that time. This is like way before his presidency. Yeah. But my cousin-in-law actually, my cousin's husband, he had an extra ticket. I was like 16 years old. He's like, hey, you want to come to this thing? And you just, you go to all these breakout rooms, and I just like immediately fell in love with this idea of passive income. I was like, this is like incredible. So I don't know. I was 16 years old, so it was a while ago. I'm 36 now, 20 years ago. So anyway, we from there, I went to university, but I was reading every Robert Kiyosaki book, every single book on investing in real estate that I could get my hands on. So by the time I was out of university, I already could run the numbers quite efficiently. And so I ended up buying a place in Hamilton that I bought and renovated, added a bedroom. Then I was living in the property with roommates and making like $700 a month. And I was like, this is incredible.
How old were you?
It was early 20s. Yeah, so I was like, all right, I got to do it again. So I bought out here in Kitchener. And so actually,
What street was that? I think I remember that.
it was a Cedar Crest.
Yeah.
So Nathan Flanagan was actually my real estate agent. And Nathan Flanagan introduced me to Keller Williams. Keller Williams introduced me to Mark Loeffler, and that's how I joined Loeffler's team, and that's how I met my lovely wife. And so we started getting into bigger deals, started doing some flips. Eventually, fired myself from my 9-to-5 salary position at Acon, and it was doing real estate full time. Got my license, and so from there started getting into more raising capital. I already had like a bit of a runway, I guess, some experience that I could lean on to showcase like past performance. And from there, it just really took off. And so since then, we've got a plethora of joint venture partners. And our portfolio is like at 90 some odd units right now. And we've bought in New Brunswick, we've bought in Alberta, we've bought all across Southern Ontario.
Big Ohio, right?
We bought in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. And so our next phase actually is getting into more syndications. And eventually, I'm thinking we'll probably create a fund down the road. That's kind of what I'm thinking. If my back slowly is turning towards you, it's not intentional. I'm just, yeah.
I don't know.
It's not on purpose. I'm not trying to phase you out. Yeah.
Is it the chair or the floors aren't level, right?
I don't know.
What is it, right?
I don't know. It's all right.
So I we were chatting before too, and you guys kind of had, I guess, in my journey getting into real estate was I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, by Gary Keller, just kind of, real estate investing focused books. And then got into real estate because of a passion for investing in real estate, not because I wanted to become a realtor. Like I wasn't thinking when I was, my teens, I'll become a realtor, right? It seems like you guys kind of had a similar journey of kind of getting into it because you guys are investing in real estate and then getting licensed. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. It's I think overall, when real estate, getting my real estate license was a means to an end. I was never truly passionate as much as I held family and friends, and I do enjoy that process.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I want to be the next top real estate agent. For me, I get a lot of benefit off of like when I go to a partner and I hand them like a 6-figure check, and I'm like, there you go, and the people are just floored. Like that's like super powerful. So for me, it's like, it's more investment. I have a construction background, right? I'm an engineer by study, and I did project management for a while. So I really love turning just absolute crap holes into beautiful properties. You reshape neighborhoods. I've had countless.
We have 2 real doozies working on right now.
Had countless neighbors come up in like tears, like thanking us for like just turning neighborhoods around. It's such a gratifying experience, and I think that there's very few. As real estate investors, you're able, I know this sounds kind of pompous, but you can become more of an economic powerhouse. You employ all kinds of trades. You employ accountants, lawyers. You're dealing with city planners. You're creating beautiful parts of the neighborhood. You can
Jobs.
Yeah, you're creating a ton of jobs.
Opportunity.
And these new properties that you renovate that are cost more now, that are taxed more, help build roads and school. It's like you start to go deeper. It's like, this world needs more investors, it needs more of that creativity. So it's really awesome.
Well, there's multiple segues we can go with that, I guess, on the topic of we need more investors, we need more investment. I guess more of a now issue, kind of getting into like the vein of, what's going on in general society. I guess, how do you guys view what's going on in the housing market at large, in this housing crisis that we're experiencing? And I guess it's like a super big question, but how do we solve it? I don't know if you guys have any thoughts you want to add to, or anything on that topic.
Perpetual and constant action.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be small things. I think that even the political climate that we're finding ourselves in, the pendulum is slowly shifting, right? We're starting to see, even just having, everyone likes to talk about real estate. You mentioned it, people want to chat. It's a really interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that the general opinions of people tend to be leaning more so, on a conservative feel of wanting to pour back into businesses and allowing people the opportunity to create housing and infrastructure and industry. And, a lot of that just comes with lobbying. And, again, it's like it's on our shoulders, unfortunately, as the people that are hoping to pursue businesses still in Ontario to have to constantly. And that could be at your local government, or it could be at the LTB, right? It's like little teeny tiny bits, and we're taking steps every single day, but you have to keep perpetually moving forward.
Absolutely.
I think that if you want to see a solution to the housing problem, you have to let builders build houses. We had a building in St. Catharines. This is a dilapidated, derelict crap hole of a building. It was vacant. Well, there was some crackheads living in there, unfortunately, but it was it was not functional. It was completely a stain on the whole corner, and so we had to go through the committee of adjustments, legalize part of it, restructure the building itself. It took us 1 year and 3 months to get permits. 1 year and 3 months. So you're sitting there with 9 potential units that you can house more people, and it takes 1 year and 3 months. Yeah. And so I don't think that if that's the conversation around real estate, I mean, there's that telltale story of the guy who has a factory or whatever, and back in the 60s, it cost him $600 to get a permit, and now he's doing a tree study on every bloody tree in his backyard, and it costs him, $1 million just to get a piece of paper to say he can now start to build. It's funny and this is part of the reason we're exploring other markets, because it's become so challenging. And this is also why we're seeing this exodus of other investors who are starting to leave the province, because it just financially doesn't make sense. They wonder why rents are so high. Like for a 1-bedroom, they're renting at like $2,200. It's wild, absolutely crazy. How's that sustainable long term? So it's funny. I was talking to the planner in one of the sections of Columbus, Ohio, and the guy was sitting there, and I was asking about his process for rezoning and permitry and that kind of stuff, and he's like, Yeah, our rezoning application, it is a little bit cumbersome, but it's you know, if you get your paperwork in time, we're averaging about 6 weeks. And my jaw hit the floor. I was like, it's a year in Ontario, and that's not for sure that you're going to get your zoning application approved.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine the carrying costs on a multi-million-dollar project that you want to now turn around, and your investors have their money with you, and you've got all this pressure of like, what if, you know? So to me, it just sounds it seems like a policy change needs to happen, and yeah, and so I'm hopeful that like there's an incentive now. I know that whether you like them or not doesn't matter, but from a political standpoint, Poilievre is trying to come out with an incentive program to incentivize different municipalities that if they can decrease their permit time frame, they'll fund more. And I think that if municipalities are intelligent enough to help it take on that you know, that challenge, they can really do a huge number on, you know, bolstering their town or their little city or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
And draw.
that's a kind of a long-winded answer. Yeah.
There's no one answer. There's
Quick,
no
Alex.
answer.
I'm gonna see if we've got some more of those cheers there.
No, like you take this one.
Well,
Because I think if I sit on this one,
there's a high
fine. Here,
There's a high chair in there. Someone want to grab
try
one of
this
those
real quick. Let's try this.
Like a kid side chair.
Yeah.
I think I'll be able to make it work because I can put my foot down and then I won't move here.
Yeah, you see, you're taller than me. There you go. Very good.
See, there we go.
Well, I was just
No,
thinking,
no.
one of these.
We're good. We're good. We're good. We're figuring it out. Yeah. We just
Yeah.
talked. Yeah.
Oh. Is that a little less distracting? I think so.
That's nice. I didn't want to say anything, but it was driving me crazy.
You just stood there.
I was like, gonna have a deep vein here that's gonna show soon.
Thanks for the swap. Appreciate it.
The veins slowly just going.
Yeah.
So when did you both, I guess, what level was the portfolio at on, you know, at the point when you started to explore outside of Ontario? And at what point was that? Like what year approximately did you start to go to Alberta? And I think New Brunswick?
Yeah, New Brunswick was first. And New Brunswick, honestly, so we were at the time where everyone was kind of investing in New Brunswick. We ended up, my grandparents live in Nova Scotia. So we were planning a trip there anyway. And on a whim, we're like, you know what? Do you want to go to New Brunswick? We'll rent a car. We'll go check out Moncton. We'll go to St. John, just kind of take a look. And we were doing some homework. So we reached out to some realtors. We reached out to some wholesalers. And we ended up connecting with a wholesaler and his partner at the time and just hit it off. So we met for lunch. We had a great time. We're like, do you guys want to meet for dinner later? And they're like, yeah, sure. So dinner turned into drinks, turned into like, you know, shutting the bar down at like 3 a.m, going back. And then the next day, he called us and was like, listen, I've got this building. If you guys are interested, this is the price. It was just a small, like 5-unit building. And we're like, yeah, we'll take it. So we just bought this building randomly.
We still haven't seen it to this day.
Yeah, we've never been to it, never seen it, never walked
Had
in
it
it.
for what, 4 years now?
Yeah,
We did an $80,000 renovation completely virtually.
yeah.
Bought it for $250, put $80K into it, and it appraised at $575. So we pulled our capital out plus a big surplus, and now cash flow is like a dream.
And
Got
it just does its thing.
We got a really great PM out there.
That's
Canada Homes for Rent.
That's where in New Brunswick?
In St. John.
St. John.
Yeah,
Uptown,
so it's
St.
right in Uptown, which is a nice neighborhood. So, yeah, that was the first. And then we've been looking at the States for a few years now, and Columbus in particular, because we have connections in Columbus, so his best friend is there. So, yeah, we've been looking there. And then same with Edmonton. Edmonton went fast, too. We went, you flew out there and saw a building, and we bought that.
Yeah, I went to an Investors Network Club. And I was talking to Loeffler. He's like, yeah, I'm flying out to Edmonton next week. We're going to go look at buildings. I was like, all right, I'm coming with you. I was like, yeah, come on out. So went, looked at some buildings, and I was like, yeah, put an offer on this one. And
Yeah.
I got it.
So is that the first? Because we have I made a slide for you guys here, which we
Yeah.
can get to at any time, or we keep.
Yeah,
Like-
that's Park Growth. So we literally just closed on that just a few weeks ago.
So in my opinion, and, you know, knock on wood, Alberta, if you've gone through, like, Ontario real estate, Alberta's like a breeze. The Wild West. You can do anything. Well, not anything, but, like,
It's so different. It's very refreshing. It's almost like it's unnerving. You're looking and you're like,
tenants don't pay. There's a financial penalty
like
for that.
oh, wow.
You know, if they cause damage, it's like they have to play the trades guys. If and you can say the same argument here for the maintenance type stuff, but try getting blood out of a stone here. If they don't pay, the sheriff shows up in like 3 weeks. Here in Ontario, 9 months, right? So but the difference is that there you can price yourself out of the market. Here in Ontario, it's almost like sky's the limit. You can put your lease up for rent for whatever, and eventually it'll hit.
Yeah.
The concept when you're changing from smaller unit compositions to large unit compositions, actually it doesn't matter for either. But when you're investing in real estate, fundamentally, the whole game plan is you need to be able to execute on a business plan. And in real estate, the business plan is you're taking, well, ours, anyway, there's sure a whole array of different business plans that you can follow through on. Ours is to find a building that's underperforming, needs some sprucing up, has been maybe neglected, and
Poorly managed.
and breathe some life into it with fresh renovations, and then you can capitalize on better rents.
Yeah.
So that's been our model, and the challenges here in Ontario is you can't really do that. You're hard pressed to get a tenant out who's been living in for a cheaper rent, right? So, and it is what it is. That's just the rules you got to play by. So if those are the rules you got to play by, it's interesting in the a millionaire real estate agent, there's a really powerful kind of chapter that really affected me when I read it. This is the Gary Keller book that we were talking about just a second ago. Yeah, the real estate investor.
Agent's a great book too.
The blue book. But anyway, it's called Stick or Switch. And every investor at a certain point in their career will have to decide whether they stick or switch. You can stick with your current process and you'll expect different results. Or you can switch and try and find lower hanging fruit or an easier path. And so part of our conversations have been, well, let's explore other markets. Let's see what else is out there.
Yeah.
And
diversify slightly.
yeah,
It's nice, honestly. It's been interesting to see.
it's cool. We get to go, meet really amazing people in all these different places. Like I've got amazing connections in Columbus. We have wonderful connections in St. John. Like that was another thing. We met with realtors out there. Same thing. We shut the. It was an interesting few days.
Yeah. Different culture.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And even same thing in Edmonton. Is like you're meeting like really fun people that have the same mindset as like they're there to make a splash and
Yeah.
make money and have fun at the same time.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Right?
So I guess speaking of the value add model, because I believe like a lot of the purchases that you've done in Hamilton have primarily been like value add, and you guys have done multifamilies in Hamilton, and
Yeah,
and,
all of
and-
them. I don't think we've ever really bought anything that's turnkey.
Yeah, never.
Yeah. So what's the biggest multifamily that you've done in Hamilton in the past and like turned over?
In Hamilton, 8. St. Catharines was a 9 unit.
Yeah.
Hamilton, I think their budgets were in and around the same. Cannon was probably more. Cannon had a lot of that was like lifting the building up, repouring foundation.
The whole building was painting, so we tilted it up and poured new footings. And
I went on your social media the other day and I was seeing some of the flips and stuff you've been in or whatever that you're working on, and you're just like, look at this basement. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I've got a house right now on stilts, and the whole foundation's blown out.
Yeah.
It's like sitting enthralled right now, like that.
That's the second one we've done. We had a duplex in St. Catharines, same thing. Big tree in the back, blew out the whole back of it. Just put it up,
Yeah.
no permit.
That's one thing. You realize like, people look at that and like, not gonna buy it. That's too much work. And you realize like, if I can just get it that much work dollar wise cheaper, well, who cares?
Mhm.
It's like, sure, cost me $50,000, but that's a huge job. Yeah, but if I get it 75 or 100,000 cheaper because of that $50,000, like it's a huge return on investment for that one line item on your budget, right?
Of course.
And so
We'll say his experience in that world is invaluable, right? I think that's Alex can see very easily behind it because he's like, okay. And not to say there haven't been surprises. There's been times where we're like,
Yeah.
oh, we thought that was going to be X amount and it was not. But
yeah,
for the most part, there's built-in contingencies. So we run a pretty tight budget on all of our projects, but that is more or less your expertise.
that's the fun part.
Like when you're looking at these properties that are like needing substantial work, and you're going in and quoting the amount of work that it needs, is there like are you just at a point now where like you get a number, then you just add like a certain percentage because it's just like there's gonna be stuff that pops up, but you just got to get such a good purchase price, I guess, too, right?
Yeah.
Or a mix of the both.
It also, like, compared to my first, reno that I ever did to now, you start to wean out your power team. So you really get core people that are competent, that you work well with. So it's a trial and error process. But I mean, you go into a place now, I mean, you can kind of thumb it after a while. Like a single family house, it's like, it's going to be, I don't know, 150 to 200,000.
Sure.
Something like that, right?
Sure.
And so I'm not worried about what every single little quote is going to come out to, so plus or minus. I just make sure that with my contingency, I can do it, and then it becomes a game. To me, the fun part is I have a budget. I've got X amount for plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all that, and I got to beat every line item. And I don't beat every line item.
Yeah. But it's a fun game, though. You're trying to gamify it in a way. Yeah. That just blew out of the water?
No.
No, it was...
We ran like a project. It looked exactly the same. It was like
One of the best parties.
every single line item. Like,
Just like project managing your wedding. Yeah.
we were looking to stay with them.
Hey, the investor's at heart, right?
Project management is, I find this that's the very exciting part of the business.
Yeah.
And as a real estate investor, you don't have to do that, right? You can sub it out to a general contractor. You can find a project manager and manage that aspect of it. So don't be discouraged even a little bit. That's something that you're not comfortable with or familiar with. You just got to find people you trust.
But you really like it, though. You guys really like it.
He loves it. I find certain elements it to be fatiguing. The financial part is great. Sometimes it's like, real estate investing is a people industry. And sometimes you're dealing with people in very stressful circumstances, right? And when you have to you're chasing people to get work done, you got to get guys back on site that aren't on site. It is what it is. But that, again, I'm grateful to Alex because he is a little pit bull. So I'm very good at that kind of stuff. Well, I'm a little more
so you got
to do it, yeah. I guess individually, what would be each of your, favorite part of a real estate transaction? I mean, I'm kind of getting the sense project management for you.
No, actually.
Okay, all right.
Art of the deal, man.
Yeah,
that's the best.
Yeah, the negotiating.
Yeah, you love that, eh?
Just figuring out the structure of a deal. There's so many ways to skin a cat in real estate. We bought a property, and this is typically an American strategy, but in the 80s, they used to do it here in Canada too. It's called subject to. So we bought a property from a guy. We put $50,000, took 100% beneficial ownership, and we're just paying his mortgage for him. And this guy was desperate to get rid of his property, but at the time it just didn't really work out. And he's like, "Yeah, just don't want to deal with this anymore," and I could use the 50 grand. So now we've got his mortgage that was locked in at 5 years at 2.8%, and I'm just paying that in his property taxes. And it's like now we've got probably $250,000 of equity in that.
Yeah.
Just by being clever and thinking and having a lawyer that understood that, which was great.
Same with vendor take back mortgages where you can utilize the person's equity. I really like your slide actually on the return on equity, because it's actually it's an important, for sure. I'm a huge Excel nerd, man. Yeah, for sure.
We could definitely bond over that.
Yeah, but it's an interesting way to think about it, because you're right. Everyone's always like, what's my return on investment? And with the BRRRR strategy, for us, for example, we consider a win when our return on investment's infinite. Because my intention is, and all of our joint venture partners, actually 100% of them right now, have all their capital out of the deals. And we still own it 50-50. So they're sitting at their day jobs or whatever they do, and they're like, "Yeah, I just got all my money back out. This is wild."
Yeah.
So for me, that's a huge win. But that's a return on equity.
Yeah.
And now those properties have a substantial amount of equity in them because of the time has passed. So for example, we just sold a duplex that was kind of walking funny and didn't cash flow too much. Somewhere this was right in downtown Hamilton. It was
Hamilton. It was a semi-detached, not legal.
Yeah, it was.
It was one of the first ones we bought.
Yep.
It was nice.
Had $200,000 of equity in it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't doing anything. So from
Did you look at the return on equity there? Did you look at the percent, or did you just know?
Yeah, that was more of it's down to. But that $200,000 was going to be deployed elsewhere, where our strategy actually, and once again, the beauty of real estate investing is that your strategy can vary. Some people, like people that have massive wealth, they are looking for ways to deploy capital so that they can defer taxes, they can create long-term wealth. They don't want to like have cash flow coming in because it creates a higher tax incentive for them. So you have different. Our plan right now is more cash flow heavy. So we just want to buy buildings like cash flow, and then you don't have to. We got a big solid buffer, like an aura surrounding it, like a moat, I guess.
Yeah.
We just recently switched to that though. We were never overlay. We're equity heavy. Like our real estate portfolio is relatively young. So most of our wealth is equity in the buildings that we own. But now it's like, okay, let's capitalize on some of this equity. So that $200,000 that we'll take out, we're going to deploy this in a more favorable market center like Edmonton or in Ohio. That's going to be our cash flow, right? So now it's like, let's start getting a little bit more income like for month to month.
I think too, you
supplementing that. Again, it's just changing, right? It's like our life is changing slightly and our family is growing, and that kind of helped me step back from a lot of the day-to-day as well.
How many kids?
3, going on 4.
One more coming.
Nice. What are the ages?
4, 3, 1.5.
Yeah,
Baby.
busy household.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see what this one is. It's probably a boy. They're all boys, so high energy.
Yeah, no,
I spend a minimum an hour on the trampoline every night with
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Like,
Well,
case in point with this property here is that cash flow neutral property, let's call it, that had equity in it. Well, we could take that and convert it into this property, which is 10 units. It's worth substantially more, and our cash flow on this is going to be about $1,200 a month, and that's with a lot of like buffers
and you better finance.
Way better. And to be honest, the management, the time that you spend managing like a 10-unit building versus a duplex, honestly, isn't that different. Truly. Like if any of you guys self-manage any of your properties or have a management company or do anything like that, I mean, that's just the truth of it. I don't see much different. 205 West was a thirsty property. The main floor was so needy. Very nice, but very needy.
Yeah.
So it's like you just kind of trade that and then you upgrade. It's just different. And I would much rather have something like this now at this point in our life.
And that's the now strategy is that we're actually, so we have a property management company and we manage for third-party clients. So if any of you guys ever have properties, Brantford, Hamilton, St. Catharines, Niagara area, like let us know. We'd love to help you.
On the property management side.
On the property management side, for sure.
Okay.
So this property is actually reporting to the main hub in Ontario. And we have a resident manager who lives there. And we give her, I think, $500 a month. And she is like the mother hen. She bakes cookies for the tenants, and she mows the lawn, and she does the grass.
Been there forever.
She loves
Everyone knows
the
her.
flowers in the front, and she's, such a sweet lady. So we took her out for a lunch when we met her and stuff like that, and she was really interested to keep it going. So we shipped her a printer, and getting her established so that she'll
walk her through how to use it.
Yeah. But you know what? It's good to have that kind of thing, and it's good to, once again, it's actually easier. Our job is easier here than it is for our properties that are local, because people are really receptive to notices out there.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been a real change in kind of the experience of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, like, we've gotten lucky with a really great resident manager out there who so far has been just wonderful to deal with. She's great. So I'm really excited, and that now is like the sky's the limit. We have people that are really interested who are coming with money, and they're like, oh, we want to have the same experience. Because to put in perspective, guys, we put $88,000 down.
Do you want to just walk us through the numbers real quick? Do you want to go through everything?
For sure.
Is that
Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple things to know. Who here has heard of CMHC's MLI Select program? Okay. So for those of you guys who don't know, the MLI Select program is a unique kind of offering that CMHC has. And what they do is they incentivize investors, builders, developers to build by kind of focusing on 3 main criteria that will help them get more favorable financing terms. So one of them is accessibility. So whether you don't have like a handicap unit or you have wheelchair ramps, that kind of thing. Affordability. So are you offering rents lower than what the median income is? Or you have energy efficiency. So do you have high efficiency boilers, pot lights that are LED, that kind of stuff, better insulation qualities, that kind of thing. In Edmonton, Alberta, just about every single property qualifies with full points on affordability because the Albertans make a lot of money and their rents aren't that high.
Yeah.
So for that,
What's the average income in Edmonton? I mean, household income, I think it's like 84 or 85,
something like that. Yeah.
And here it's like 77 or 70.
Their cost of living is like significantly lower.
Well, I mean, what's the average sale price in Edmonton? Like
For something like
or something like that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here it's like 800.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for like a good
Lower
size
income.
house.
Yeah, it's just weird.
So what that means is like we're still advertising at market rents. Like for us to rent out a 1-bedroom, and it's like a nice big 1-bedroom, is $1,300 plus
Yeah.
hydro. To me, that's
nice.
It's reasonable.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
Instead of like renting at, 3,000. I mean, like, sure, you want
And then
$1,000.
wondering how sustainable that is and when the bottom's going to be.
Yeah.
Because all your numbers are choked
Yeah.
up to here and you can't.
You know that like it's a 1-bedroom with a couple or a single person in it because that's the affordability of it. And it's, again, if you put something too high, it just won't rent. The Edmonton market is so balanced that anything that is, it's the market dictates what the price would be.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, I don't know, it's a much more free market. Obviously, there's much less government legislation.
Yeah. So as part of that whole process, when you're looking at a building and you're qualifying it through CMHC, we can lift rents within a couple $100. So you're not chasing tenants away, and they kind of are like, yeah, this was kind
The
of
rents aren't
course.
as low, kind of.
Yeah, they were paying $1,100, now they might be paying $1,300, but that's kind of par for the course. And so because of that, now you have a lift opportunity, right? Your building's worth more technically because the way that we analyze rental properties is based on your net operating income divided by your cap rate. And so in this particular situation, we had bought it at like a 4.36 cap, I think is what I put down there.
What was the price that you bought it at?
We bought $1.2 million.
Okay, well,
For $120 a door. And so we raised our net operating income substantially. So
have you closed on it?
Yeah.
Did you buy?
yeah,
The way
Yeah.
you buy it? Okay.
And we had the rent increases were given out actually prior to close.
Yeah.
So then we could capitalize on that rent.
and so you're submitting that to CMHC saying, actually, the place is worth more, so they'll give you a more favorable loan to value. So we had to put 5% down, and we had a 50-year amortized mortgage because we qualified at such a high affordability ratio. So, I mean, right now, as it stands, like if we ran the net operating income at the same evaluated cap rate that we bought it at, property actually, as it is, would be worth $1.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you built in this cushion of $600,000 for doing nothing. It's kind of weird.
So why didn't the past owner do it?
So that's a very good question, and the reason is you got a ton of. So Alberta has traditionally been boom bust, right? The oil market out there has been great at times and terrible at times, and there's been times where they couldn't give away the oil for free, right? And in those times, it was just a mass exodus. Everyone just left, and it created this vacuum
Yeah.
leaving the West. So that's why a lot of people in like the baby boomer generations are very skeptical about Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at boom bust cycles right now, we are sitting at the bottom trench right now. And so I'll get into the political side because that's an interesting kind of segue of this too. But
It's an open conversation.
yeah, but if
Freedom of speech, right?
yeah, well, it's not an opinionated political, but it's just a factual concept.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of legacy owners. Like this building, the guy who bought it, he bought it for $1.28 million in 2016. We bought it for $1.2 million in 2024.
Say the numbers again, sorry. How much did
We bought it for $1.28 million. So we got it $80,000
Yeah.
less than what he paid for it like 6 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know the math of it. 2016, so 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me to think. And like they've updated the roof and the windows and the balconies are beautiful and it's fantastic. It's the nicest boiler room you'll ever see in your life is in this building. It's wild.
Yeah.
Like I really like it. But
The utility room.
yeah,
We love it.
totally. And so the big reason why is that these legacy owners have breathed like the sigh of relief where they went through hell in a handbasket when that exodus happened. I've seen leases that have shown incentives like 3 months free rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just
to try
rent,
to get
just to
people
keep,
stay.
to stay here, pay the difference of the 9 months, 3 months free rent or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
just really low rental rates. And so he even expressed, like, the owners of this building were awesome, an older couple. And I got to sit on a Zoom call with them. And they talked about the whole building, and they had all these really detailed notes about all the maintenance stuff that had ever taken place. And it was great to, like, hear their story.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this actually wasn't as great of an investment as I thought. And it's interesting because I think to myself, it's like, if only you, like, realize that, like, now would have been your time. But they're at the point where they're like, they had a lot of equity in the deal. They just were, like, ready to go. But they're retired, so you don't want to deal with
it's lifestyle for them too, right? This is one that they're like, yeah, we just don't want to hold on to this building anymore. So they're just like, we want to go.
Yeah. So from the political climate standpoint, is that you have Alberta that has traditionally been very oil focused, and they haven't had much else other than that. Over the last 8 years, there's been this anti-oil movement. I'm sure you guys all hear about it in the news and things like that. Alberta's done a really great job actually diversifying out of just oil. And it kind of reminds me of Hamilton. Hamilton was steel town. It was Stelco, Dofasco, and that's all it was. Everybody worked at Stelco or Dofasco. And now it's like you see the banking sector has exploded. It's got the most advanced healthcare facilities in Canada are in Hamilton. You know, the cancer research facility, like the St. Joseph, all these hospitals and whatever. It's done a remarkable job of reinventing itself.
Yeah.
And now if you look at Alberta or Edmonton, all of Alberta, over the last 8 years, they've been kind of forced to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're also this kind of beacon of hope for like, you know, common sense, for lack of a better word, you know, the way I kind of see it. So you're starting to see a ton of people moving out there. Yeah. And if you want to talk just raw numbers, every province had a deficit of interprovincial migration.
Yeah.
The only two were New Brunswick and Alberta. And I don't know how they factor it, but it was like a factor of 2 for New Brunswick, and it was 16,000 for Alberta as a positive. In Ontario and BC, people are just leaving. So people are looking for affordable places. They're looking for opportunities to make better income.
Yeah.
And they're attracting LNG plants. They're attracting big chemical factories. There's all kinds of, they want to create Calgary to be the Silicon Valley of the West. Yeah. That's what they're calling it. So back to the political realm is you've got our current government who has never seemed overly favorable towards the West.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have two options. The Liberals come back into power. It happens. Alberta's already starting that trajectory of really redefining themselves. On the flip side, if the Conservatives come to power, it's going to be like oil, gas, let's build our resources, like keep going. And Alberta is just going to go into oblivion.
Yeah.
It really is. So we'll see. See what happens.
Yeah, there's some interesting perspectives there. Just with how, you know, government regulated Ontario is, and Alberta, like, you know, in relation to you say, you know, the rental guidelines here, and, you know, next year it's only the 2.5 you're allowed to, you know, increase the rents, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, versus Alberta, you could just increase them to market, and then, you know, people will say, well, you know, that's not going to be fair for tenants. Well, it actually is, you know, because now the new units that are put up for rent in Ontario, you can ask for crazy rents because there's a lot of people that aren't moving, mm-hmm. right? And there's like this lack of supply. There's also a lot of people not moving, but then there's obviously not the supply being built. And that was it makes the problem even worse. And you're seeing these crazy high rents that we're seeing in Ontario and, you know, major markets, right? Versus in Alberta, you can just increase the market rate. I mean, as you guys know, and if there needs to be more supply, they're just going to build it because it's more freedom. Like, I guess, I don't know if it's a fair way to think about it, but I kind of think of Alberta as like the Texas of Canada kind of thing. So is that a fair way to think about it?
Yeah, it's very
kind of like,
it would be a red state, essentially.
Yeah. Because I've kind of heard like stuff percolating in Alberta about kind of more like, I don't want to call it socialist policies, but have you guys heard about like, because I believe there was some stuff kind of percolating, but they're trying to...
The squeaky wheel will always get the oil.
Because it's trying to get there.
It's trying.
Yeah.
You're always going to see that. So when we bought in New Brunswick, all of a sudden within like months of buying, so we had just done our rent increases, we went in, we evicted one tenant, did a bunch of other things, and then it was like, bam, The next day, rent control. They're doing this. It's like it's the automatic response whenever there's just an influx. And it was because people were just like blocking and they couldn't handle the overflow of people coming into that market center, right? Like it was like bananas. Everybody I talked to was, and not just investors, it was like people selling here to buy, you know, a 100-acre farm and retire out in New Brunswick because it cost them $80,000, right? It was like, I'm going to sell my house here for $800,000 and I'm going to take that nest egg and I'm going to live peacefully and still have something to give my family when I die. So people were just moving. And I think Alberta may be the same thing, but again, it's a very different, it's a different area. It's a different climate. It's a different industry. The people there are different. Like nobody, we didn't meet a single person that seemed liberal inclined in any way.
Well, you look at Calgary though, and Calgary is like, they're renting 1-bedrooms for $2,000.
Yeah.
Calgary is already
Yeah.
really exploded. I think Edmonton's unique in that sense where it's like the development that's taking place there, even in the surrounding areas of like Fort Saskatchewan and, you know, just kind of is an aura, right? And they're trying to keep it within that aura. So they're trying to densify versus spread out too much. But I don't know. I think that's why Edmonton right now, in terms of Canadian real estate, has like another 2-year really hot window because, you know, of economic policy, you know, political climate, and also people really catching on to opportunities in Edmonton are just lower hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Pals right now, what is the, you know, the Pal clan? What's the unit count for Ontario? And then what is the focus for the next couple of years? Is it Edmonton? Like, where is the primary focus going to be for you guys?
No, we're still looking at like quite a few market centers in the States. Tennessee being one. Obviously, we're very bullish on Ohio, so we're always seeing buildings and stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's not bad because we can still fly there. Ohio's great because it's a short drive, so if Alex had to drive there or like fly, it's short and it's quick. He could go, you know, meet up and look at something. Definitely Edmonton. So I think we'll probably have a few more buildings left, but just bigger buildings. Like
We would still buy locally.
You would, okay.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And
What would you buy?
we have
flips.
Flips.
and vacant properties. Like, I'm not dealing with LTB stuff. No.
Yeah, so you're not dealing with the tenanted property.
No, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
No, not anymore. And no more, like, unless it was a great deal, we're not doing any more duplex conversions, triplex, fourplex, none of that.
Even
We
those
would do
deals don't
building
really make sense.
conversions.
Yeah.
You try and run your numbers on a duplex conversion, is you buy a duplex for or a bungalow. That's duplex potential for what, half $500,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Probably closer to $650,
Yep.
right? You're fixing the basement. You're putting $150K in there. You're $800,000. You're hoping to reappraise at what, 9, maybe $1 million, right? So if you're at 900,000, what's that? 80% loan to value of that.
Current interest rate.
You know, or let's call it $1 million for round number's sake. You pull out all your capital, you're never cash flowing. Not on that money. Not in today's interest rates.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
still a house hack. I think that's still viable. I
Totally.
find for us personally, the work on a duplex or a triplex is just as much as like a building too.
Yep.
Managing the trades. If you're doing like, we would still buy buildings, like renovate a bigger building, because I think that project takes just as much time. And honestly, like the money difference isn't that huge either.
we've proven to ourselves and to our partners now too, is that we can make money, like substantial money in returns for them. So we have a lot of our partners who have expressed interest to kind of go and delve into bigger buildings that have bigger buildings. Not like you might think that they're more risk, but there's economies of scale. You know, with a duplex, one person doesn't pay rent, or single family, one person doesn't rent, you're toast. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
With a multifamily, it's like you have 2 or 3 units vacant, and it's like, yeah, it sucks, but like, it's no problem. The property can still carry itself. So no problem. You can still have a resident manager who's there and looking after things.
Yeah.
It's all kind of worked in. So the real big play right now is to get into larger multifamilies. Like say like in the next 3 years, like I'd like to be in the 50 to 100 unit range where we're buying.
Like building size.
Building size, yeah.
Yeah, and not in the region.
Yeah, and then dealing more with like syndications where it's like, a lot of our properties have been joint ventures. So we find the property, we do all the work, we run through the permit process, and then we share in the upside 50-50 with our partners. and the prospect has always been the partner gets their money out first.
Yeah.
And then whatever is from there, we share 50-50. Now it's going to be more of like managing higher and better and bigger expectations of like, oh, you guys have preferential returns of X amount of dollars, and, you know, we're doing like a profit share every quarter, and this is like the overall look at the project, you know, how it's going. I think right now is a really, really, really good time to buy. All the big gurus that I'm listening to, who I've listened to since I was a kid, you know, like Rich Dad Advisors and stuff. Like, I don't know if have you heard of Ken McElroy? Oh yeah. I love the guy.
Very bullish real estate.
His plan is billion. Yeah, he plans to buy $1 billion in real estate in the next 5 years. He's like, now is the time. And they were all the guys that were warning during the COVID, is like, you know, now's the time to sell. It's just math. I think it's like we get so excited about, you know, the crowd runs here and then we all run over here, and the investors just try to get there first, and then they watch the crowd coming and they jump to the next spot, and they watch the crowd coming, and that's where it is. So this information is so readily available nowadays. You just got to find the right person to listen to.
Yeah.
Right. That's all.
What would be some of those people? I guess Ken McElroy is one of them.
Yeah.
And other people that recommend following it.
Ken McElroy is a big one. Like, I also like. Have you guys heard Meet Kevin?
I have.
Yeah. So I like Meet Kevin.
Or one in London.
You met me. Yeah, I think you might be thinking Stephen Graham. No, they were both there. Were they? Stephen Graham is good too. I like him as well. But you know, for true real estate, like nuts and bolts, like one thing I'm grateful for when it comes to real estate, like I've talked to a lot of younger people. I feel like I was right on the cusp of when real estate became just bonkers. And I think that a lot of people nowadays, they did a duplex, they made $100,000 in a year, and they're like, I am God's gift to real estate, and I will teach everyone how I did. And now I look at those people, and they're all like bankrupt or they're belly up. And I feel like I like caught the last chopper at a nom by like reading like the fundamental books, like Rich Dad Poor Dad. Don Campbell's How to Invest in Real Estate Using the Acre System. That was like using the gold mine scorecard to like just triple check all your numbers, and it's like
that markets too. Like he has the checklist.
Yeah. And so now we've managed to buy really good real estate deals, and then when the interest rates shot up, it was like, oh, this hurts, but we actually were okay, and our investors were all okay. And I'm like, thank God I like ran my numbers at 6% when everyone else is running their numbers at like 2% because they'll never go up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like we cushioned ourselves, you know, and it was, you know, I would be lying to you if I say we didn't have negative cash flowing properties. It hurt for a period, and now it's like things have stabilized, you know, rents have gone up. We're kind of on the, you know, and overall our portfolio has been positive, which is really great, right?
Totally.
So that's why it's like, you know, the fundamentals of real estate, people think is this exciting thing. It's supposed to be boring. You know, for me, the exciting part is the project management, is the art of the deal. With the actual like stabilization and the management and then just the wait period is supposed to be really boring. If real estate
market has allowed it to be boring. We've had some pretty like
crazy years.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, like the volatility, even just when I got licensed. I mean, 2018 was the first dip, right? So that was like wild to be selling real estate in that market. And you're like, what the heck? I just started. And then, you know, COVID, that was another transition. And then the interest rates from last year, it's like, whoa.
Just think about like how much you've been through just in that small window.
Yeah, that's why those memes exist when it's like, I love real estate. It's like a picture of an old woman, and I'm only 35. Like, yeah.
Like the hair's all everywhere. And
That's why those exist.
6 years ago, we bought our first place. It was in Niagara Falls, just a single family home for $130,000. You get that nowadays, you know? We've done like new floor and paint is all we've done in that place. 5.
Yeah, probably just under like 475.
Seems like a nice deal. I mean, in comparison.
So there's some return on equity there, right? It's like cash flowing beautifully. It's got, you know, 2 brothers that live there with a big dog, and they tend to it, you know? Great.
Mm-hmm.
I got a nice mindset question here from the sheet, and I'm looking at it, I think it'd be good. If you both were to start over from scratch right now, what would you do differently, if anything?
starting from scratch at this time. We're starting from
Cost that we had for every single one of our projects. So love our partners. We're always working with partners, but that would be probably what I would do is I would just utilize private capital. I would look for underperforming assets and I would only buy bigger buildings. Actually, I guess I'd do a few flips. We'd do a few flips if we had to get some capital to start. And get some money in those pockets. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with the duplexes, the triplexes, again, the single family homes. They have been great. I mean, they are excellent equity. And I think for having a diverse portfolio where you have a little bit of everything, it's nice to have those as like, you know, little
winners under your belt.
For sure, little cash cows whenever you need them, right? You like bring the cow to market, sell it, and then buy a few buildings with it. That's what they're for. But I think to scale, I would jump right into buying buildings.
That's it. So, I think I have to agree with that. Is that there's a bit of trepidation when you're first starting and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So my logical brain would say I should start with a single family, graduate to a duplex, and then to a triplex, and then work my way up. And then, because the truth is that, you know, duplex and triplexes have like $1,000 problems and buildings have $10,000, but you just kind of keep adding a zero to the end of your problems. I think, though, that with a knowledge base, once you figure it out, once you understand it, you can foresee a lot of these bigger issues. And so, you know, there's that famous word, if you want to stop, you don't want to always be covered in crap, you got to stop stepping in it. You ever heard that?
No,
like,
I haven't.
You have to sometimes foresee where you're stepping, and then you can avoid the pitfalls. Because otherwise, you're just like a victim all the time, right? So if you understand that, you have the knowledge base backing you when you're buying these bigger buildings, I would have jumped right at those when the
Usually the private capital side, and get into the bigger buildings sooner than later.
On the bigger buildings, still an equity play. You know, you want equity partners to come in, but it's a different structure. It's GPLP structure. It's not joint venture. It's different. Different. You're dealing with like, you're not dealing with Joe, the painter, who's like, you know, he'll do cash jobs on the side. You're dealing with like, you know, professional contractors that have like insurance and stuff. You know, it's just different, right? But the expectations are there, and you can, like, sky's the limit, I would think.
Yeah. So what would you say would be like one of the biggest, I guess, on a mindset side, what would be the biggest mindset that you would say that has contributed to the success that you both have experienced in the growth of your businesses, of your life, mindset-wise? Because, I mean, you guys aren't spring chickens. You guys have been in it for a while. You have seen some hard times, have been through things. If we say mindset-wise, has been a big, I guess, what mindset has been a big key to your success?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a perpetual optimist. But I also would accredit a lot of the success that we have as a team as the relationship that we have with each other, honestly, in our marriage, as much as that. I think that sometimes it's challenging if you're on your own or if you're siloed and you're kind of constantly dealing. Alex and I have the beauty and the benefit of being able to share both in our failures and our successes and to lean on each other for support. We got a hot tub for free from a friend. Didn't want it. We're like, yeah, we'll take it. So we call it our hot tub sessions, where we would just sit, and it's like we have these huge like business conversations and like discussions about our life goals, and you know, we're always kind of coming back to, we have a vision board in our bathroom, so it's like what we look at every single morning when we're getting ready is our family vision board of like where we see our life and our family's life. So I think like it's never one big thing. It's the culmination of many little things, you know, checking in, leaning in on each other, sharing in a common vision, though our roles are changing and adapting as things progress.
It's funny. I'm actually I couldn't have said it better. I've never approached Kaely with an opportunity and she's like, no, like never. It's always like, all right, yeah. Or it's like, trust you or whatever, but
he has done the work. If he's coming to me with something, he's like, I think that we should get this. I'm like, yeah. He's the cautious one. I'm like already sprinting halfway to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's for me that's very powerful because I've heard stories of the exact opposite. And I have friends who come and like, hey, Alex, I want to talk to you about real estate. Da, da, da. It's like, but yeah, I don't think so and so would want to do that. So it's very challenging when you're in a matrimonial home to allocate a big chunk of your funds towards something that maybe someone doesn't quite believe in, right? And so for us, I think that it has been a real catalyst to, it's like the rocket fuel. Just we're both on the same page, and you take your licks together and you take your wins together, kind of thing. So it's good.
And you both seem very much in sync with each other in the goals and the vision of the family and what you guys are striving towards. It also seems like you're very complementary to each other.
I would say it's probably more challenging for Kayla than it is for me because like she bearing the kids and being the mom, and the kids are at the age where they need their mom. I know she is just as excited as I am when these opportunities come in, but for her to have to sacrifice has been more of a challenge. But I think that we're glad that this is the last baby. But after this, we're done. And then once the babies go to school, it's like
Not yet. We haven't found out the gender yet.
we're 3 months, but it's after this we're done, and and then after that it's like we got the rest of our lives to kind of do real. Not that this isn't fun. Not that this isn't fun, but it's like
That's a good perspective to hold on it too, right? You think, how many people, I mean, there's lots of famous examples, like Colonel Sanders. He founded KFC when he was, 60? It's like, wherever you think you are in your journey, as much as you're like, oh, I wish I would have started 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. It's like, your journey is your journey, and you will probably reinvent yourself and reestablish yourself in whole new ways and pivot. And like, that's just what you have to do. I find that, again, our world is so volatile and things change in like the drop of the hat. So it's like, it's nice to be able to just pivot and some people can do that with more ease than others. But, I just think like we're just starting kind of the beginning of where our journey could take us.
having the kids too is exciting to like bring them in to this stuff. Like who knows what they want to do?
It's the only reason we had so many. We need the labor, right?
Yeah, we got a whole demo crew. Margins are
Reach like property manager.
yeah. But it's that's a fun aspect too of like, I feel like our mindset is more entrepreneurial based. We believe in working hard. It's kind of a central pillar in our family. We both grew up with parents that believe the same thing, So, and then to teach them how to be creative, to teach them how to, appreciate what they have and stuff like that. That's going to be an interesting kind of next phase of our lives. So, yeah, cool.
Let's do one more question, then we'll open it up for Q&A if anybody has any questions. I guess, does anybody have any questions? Kind of raise your hand if you want to ask one. Okay, we'll see. We'll see about it in a second. What would you say would be like your big why? Like, do you guys have a big why? Do you think about like, aligning your goals to a purpose? And I guess how has that fueled you, if at all, in your
Legacy.
Yeah, Alex's has always been very straightforward. I don't know. I've always struggled with the concept of big why. I think a lot of people jump initially to family. They're like, I feel like I do it all for my kids, or I do it all for my parents, or like the only thing that really resonates with me, and especially real estate investing is a journey that we have gone on or I've gone on, is, I don't know, the element of like freedom. There's something about, sometimes you feel shackled because there's certainly obligations and responsibilities about being a business owner, but you pour into it because there is a certain element of freedom, right? We can set our own schedules, we own a property management company. We didn't have to do that. We chose to do that. But ultimately, if that wasn't working, we could just get rid of that too, right? Like you can be as passive as you want to be or as hands-on as you want to be. We're busybodies, like we're going to be a little bit more hands-on. But to me, Alex is very legacy, family-based. That mine has been freedom, and not just my own personal freedom, but freedom for my family. And opportunity, opportunity is a sense of freedom too.
If you think about some of the wealthiest families in the world, like the Medicis or like even like the monarch
Rockefellers
in Britain, I don't know, the the British monarch, I think, goes back probably one of the furthest. But the lineage, I think it's like 13. Like the Medicis were 13 generations. That's how long the both lasted, or whatever, right? I think that there is, for me, I find a very strong connection with creating. Like, I don't like the aspect of giving our kids just this. Here you go.
Yeah.
I want to teach them how to fish for themselves. And I find that is like super exciting.
Yeah.
And I want to teach them how to fish in such a way that they can teach their kids how to fish. And they
Like
can teach that their sphere how to fish. And I want that to have that ripple effect of where, you know, you can touch that many more people by creating such a strong legacy around what you believe in, you know? And I think, and I feel that from my grandfather, actually, who kind of instilled that in me too, right?
Yeah.
He was an entrepreneur himself, and we had talks, you know, all the time when he was alive. And it was like really meaningful as a grandkid, like kind of listening to his stories, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I wonder if my grandkids one day will sit and listen to my stories with the same awe kind of thing, you know? So I think that's such a powerful kind of the way to live, you know, every day. So
What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh man. Specific to real estate or just in general?
I got one. Your best resource is being resourceful. That's my favorite quote.
This is like the motto in the household. Yeah,
I say it to our staff too. Like, what's your best resource? Being resourceful. Yeah.
It is true though. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever received a piece of advice per se that's resonated with me. Like, I don't know. I'm going to say something generic, like take action. I mean, really, that's anything that's always standing in anybody's way, right? You take action, whether you fail or you don't, you're better for it, right? Maybe just keep moving forward. Momentum. Just keep moving, right? People fall into all sorts of periods of stagnation. I think that growth, you have to have friction in order to grow. So you need to move and have momentum.
Embrace failure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do they
Quickly.
call it? First attempt in learning?
Yeah. Has there been any big failures that you both have experienced?
Like,
that is,
do we have a couple of weeks we can talk?
Yeah.
well, I mean, I think we can give this. I mean, there's no questions. I think if anybody, I mean, feel free to leave at any time. But if you want to touch on failures, then we can go to you, on that. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I think at the beginning I was too cheap. When I first bought properties, I didn't have the money to, thank you. I didn't have the money to hire contractors. Like, literally, I remember like some of my flips, like every paycheck was going to that. And I was like, I don't know if I can like sustain this for much longer. And by doing that, I made so many mistakes. Like, I wired up a full house by myself, and the ESA inspector came, and he like sat me down, and he's like, you need to hire a professional. Like, I can't make you. You're the homeowner.
This
But
house will burn down.
It was like a 5-page deficiency list. And I didn't have the money to hire electricians. So I went through the deficiency. I sat in the library, I remember, for a whole weekend. I locked myself with the electrical code book that had all these diagrams in it. And I sat there and I read this stupid book. And then I, like, with the book, I was, like, rewiring the stuff. And I still didn't get it. And actually, it was a drywaller that came, because I thought I was like, oh, yeah, I got it all done right. So I was already getting drywaller quotes. And a drywaller came, he's like, oh, your stuff is wrong. And I was like, okay, like, he's like, here, let me show you. And he showed me, and it was like the one thing I needed for that whole book to just come together. And it, like, I was like, okay, I get it. And so I did it, and the ESA inspector came back, and I had one deficiency left over, and I fixed it right there on the spot. And he's like, I don't know who got it here. I was like, he didn't believe it. I don't think he believed it was me, but like, literally, that guy saved my ass. So, but like, those mistakes now, totally. But those mistakes, like, when I have a conversation with an electrical contractor, I speak his language. Like, I know it, like, in the back of my head, and to the point where I can, like, problem solve with them and come up with solutions with them. Same with, don't even get me started on the plumbing. It was very interesting. So, you know, but for me, maybe it's like that stubbornness, but I was also very interested. I like construction. I liked working with my hands. You know, it was always something that I did it with my dad. and never that intricate. Obviously, it was more like framing or shoveling dirt and building decks or something. But for me, it was fun to learn that, despite the money I probably lost doing it. So
Yeah.
Kayla?
I would say, yeah. I mean, we've had lots. Who doesn't? I mean, I feel like weekly we have, but you
Never
just learn
like-
from them.
Can you like ever like almost get to a point where it's like like throw up your hands with stress all day, or you just like
No, never. And I've done some pretty stupid stuff. I would say some of my personal failures have been holding on to staff too long. So, you end up working with people. Like, we don't have a big team. We have a small office. You see the same people every day. I'm very chummy, so they've instantly become like my best buds. And then you end up holding on to people maybe that aren't, either the right fit or just aren't, doing what they were supposed to be doing in the first place, right? So I would say just not letting people go, parting ways.
there's a really big distinction between investing in real estate and the business of investing in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And the business of investing in real estate is just like a lot of other businesses. You have an operations, a sales, a finance, an administrative kind of category too. When you're just buying a building and you're self-managing it, you're a chief cook and dishwasher, and that comes with its own stresses, but you're not relying on other people to do their job, and those people aren't relying on you. Kaely and I have always been the kind of people that if it's just not done, we're like, forget it. We'll do it.
yeah.
And it's not conducive to building a good organization. That has been a really big learning curve for us.
Yeah.
Of like how to lean on other people and how to hold them accountable to what
control.
and give up control.
Yeah.
And they might not do it exactly how you want to do it, but there's no other way to do it. And then now we're actually at the point where it's like we've hired people that I think are actually better than us in certain areas, and it's like, this is kind of
Which is
yeah, and it's like really exciting. It's like
yeah,
it's
that's what we want, right? Ideally.
yeah. So it frees us up to do what we need to be doing more of, is finding opportunities, finding partners that want to make money in real estate, finding the deals. So yeah, it's a big one.
Well, I guess before we hop to the question here, what's next? What's next on the horizon for the next year or two?
We're looking at a couple 20 units in Alberta.
Bigger buildings and pouring into a property management company. So we were on the fence. So we started a property management company because we were getting such poor service from all of the property managers operating, and we tried a ton of them. Hamilton, Brantford, Niagara, Welland, like kind of those areas. Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Like, other than Cedar Crest, we never really delved out in here. Anyway, we were just like, you know what? We're having such bad experiences. It's like our repair costs were insane. They're dropping notices off. We're getting dinged with like $60 here and charges. And I'm
The
like,
hottest real estate markets, our units are sitting vacant for 2
empty.
months.
Like, what is going on?
No feedback.
So we parted ways. Yeah, bad experience. So from like a lack of customer service, we just started servicing our own properties. And then from there, it's like, your real estate client, they buy an investment property and they're like, would you manage it? And we're like, yeah, sure. But like, we never really wanted to do third party. It was like, we're just managing our own portfolio. Then we're like, you know what? We're actually like, we've built all these systems. We've got this team now. It's like, you kind of reach a point where it's like, you got to be in or you got to be out. It's like, are we going to grow it or are we not? So it's like, yeah, let's grow it. So that's what we're doing now.
How many units are you guys managing right now?
So we are at about 106, I think. We just got to.
Okay.
Again, arguably, I was like, most of that's our own. However, it's like,
We're I believe it's 60-40. 60% is ours, but 40% is third party. And we've done, let me be like, no marketing. Like, we just kind of have a space.
our own friends.
And so now it's like, so we've got a marketing manager who works for us now, and it's like, okay, well, how do we make this into a better system? Like, crank the dial on the marketing. Let's see what this looks like.
Sales is sales, right?
Fortunate with real estate investors because the majority that I've talked to and encountered over the years I worked with, I would say like probably 80 to 90% of them have all had an overall bad experience with their property manager.
Oh.
And I would say the same thing with me. Like, it's just like, you're trying to like just get to like a 6 or a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Just like get close to like a 6 or a 7.
sad. It's like standards are so low, and it's
Just
just
10 out of 10. It's like, can you let me know when a tenant gives notice that they're leaving?
yeah. It should just be automatic.
2 months,
you know.
Yeah, simple stuff. This ain't rocket science.
Yeah.
Let me know.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. It doesn't have to be complicated. Property managers, it is, especially on Ontario, it's a tough business. You're literally in the middle and you're getting the shaft from both ends.
Yeah.
Because the owners are like, oh, I'm overpaying for this guy. And the tenants are like, oh, I hate you.
This-
Like it's like,
Yeah.
so part of our mission and our vision of the organization was to actually amend the bond between owners and tenants. And that was, so when you start to look at tenants of like, this is their home, and you start to look at owners as like, this is your capital and your investment.
Their business.
And this is really, this is meaningful to both in a very different way. How do you stretch yourself so that you can touch both people in a really great way? And we find that like our delinquency rate is like next to none. I think just about our whole, like we might send an N, a couple, like
I've only had to go to the LTB twice. That's it.
and it's because you give people like a little smidgen of respect, and it's like it's wonderful. And the majority of our ass tenants, our asshole tenants, sorry, excuse my French, are ones that we adopt from people that like, I can't take this anymore. I take this property. I'm done. And then we might have to deal with that or hire if like it's a non-payment of rent, or if it's someone who's very aggressive. We've dealt with that before too. Like people like yell and scream and get very like violent. But for the most part, when we now bring new people in, we have a very simple kind of like, you set ground rules and then you set expectations, and you still get complaints and stuff. But it happens. You still get different personalities.
Communicate. Over
But
communicate.
yeah, we're just communicating. That's all it is. Just like in every business.
Everybody is looking for an update. The tenant and the owner. Just make sure they're always updated.
I think the respect and the courtesy. It's kind of like, I mean, I had the other day somebody, like I was on the highway, I was driving, and somebody trying to merge, and the person that merged was kind of being aggressive, and I was like, oh damn, I was kind of getting a little bit upset about it.
Mhm.
But then they waved at me, and then they nodded me. I'm like, yeah, it's all good.
Did that wave do wonders?
Yeah, like it was
Good
just like
wave.
courtesy. Just
You know, like
yeah, you're probably in a rush, no worries. That wasn't actually mad, but like it was funny, just like a basic level of courtesy.
Yeah.
Like in that situation, I was like, yeah, it's all good, no worries. And I find with property management,
you find out he was flipping you off.
Yeah.
Now that's optimism. You're like, oh, it's so nice.
But like I find with property management, like in relation just to what you're talking about with, landlord-tenant relationship, I've always looked at it with tenants, and this is a big part of, my family kind of, coaching me on this is, I mean, the tenant really is your customer. Like they're your client. They're paying off your mortgage. They're paying rent every single month. And like the adversarial kind of relationship that I see a lot of investors kind of, I don't know, just naturally go to with the, the relationship with their tenants. And I find it really unfortunate. But when you mention, it's their home, right? Having that respect, and like not just coming in here and just putting up the property for sale out of nowhere, and like not like just like basic communication, because tenants have kids.
Just common courtesy, and it's like,
And it goes a long way for them when you go to sell the property. The tenants are respectful for showings, any stuff like that, right?
I find that most tenants take pride in where they work or where they live. And, from a property manager standpoint, it's like, yes, you kind of roll your eyes sometimes where they're talking about like the slightest, like the floor is cracked apart, the vinyl floor, which we don't use anymore. Stuff is garbage. But anyway,
What do you?
It's like the rubber stuff. Looks the exact same.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a dream.
Yeah.
It's a dream. But anyway, we may think as owners or property managers like, oh, Lord. But then you go there and this person has a nice unit, and they want their unit to be nice, and this is holding them back to having a nice unit.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. We'll get it done. No worries.
Yeah.
We'll send it a nice, charming handyman too, to like be courteous, and like we talk to our guys too to be kind.
Yeah,
and
they're trained.
Yeah.
And that was like a big thing too. It's anyone that enters the unit is a representative of our company, right? So it's like, some of our trades guys are a bit Neanderthalish, so they were not going to be the right fit. You got to be able to have some customer service, right? It's a service industry. Like property management is still service based. When they call in, someone answering the phone should be pleasant and happy sounding, and even if they're screaming. Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. No problem. We'll take creative. Like, they just want to know, they want to be heard, they want to be validated, and then they want a solution. And that's the same with owners. Owners are no different. They want to be heard, they want to feel validated, and they need a solution to whatever it is that's ailing them.
That's why we called our company Solutions Property Management, because we're ingrained in being a solutions-based company.
Yeah.
I was so sick and tired of when a property manager would call me and they'd be like, Alex, your furnace is broken.
What should
Okay.
I do?
What do you want us to do about it? I pay you. What should you do about it? Like, you're there, you see it. Yeah, but what would you... No. It's like, well, we told our property managers, you go to somebody with not one but two solutions.
Yeah.
And so boiler issues, like, here's 3 solutions. We can leave it and have a miserable time. We can fix it. It's going to cost us much. Or we can try and do this to, like...
Defer it for a bit.
Yeah, defer it. We'll try and buy some time or do whatever, right? And that way people feel like you're not pigeonholing them into a corner or something. You're not,
And you're not gouging them on.
And it's not a perfect science. We still make mistakes and stuff like that too. But at the end of the day, communication is key. And, we do our best to be there for our clients. And that's what they're paying us for. So.
Well, question? Yeah. So thank you to the audience. This is great hearing about both your journeys. Very frustrating and stuff. I just was wondering how sounds like you guys are focused on investing outside of Ontario for reasons that you've discussed. How are you finding the right people to sort of manage those properties? Because a lot of your properties, it sounds like, have a lot of value add over really than a Oregon. From what you share, you have a really deep background and that kind of stuff here. If you're investing in Edmonton and Ohio and New Brunswick, how are you finding the right people that you can trust, from kind of that base of expertise that you have, probably do a lot of that stuff locally? Not just contractors, but even property managers and, the old fee. How are you doing that out of...
Your network is your net worth, my friend. That's being the biggest...
Yeah.
Such a huge thing. So when we go to New Brunswick, for example, when we went there, we're meeting with like an investor-focused realtor. We're meeting with an investor-focused property manager. And the question is always, and this is all from, I don't know if it was Robert. Yeah, it was Robert Kiyosaki's 6 Steps to Becoming a Real Estate Investor. If you ever listened to that audio CD set, he said, your accountant, do you invest in real estate? Your contractor, do you invest in real estate? Your property manager, do you personally own investment real estate? And you'll notice it's a very different conversation. Like, you can have a contractor that like spends an hour to make sure all his miter joints are exactly perfectly aligned. In my rental property, a bead of caulking will do just fine. Doesn't have to be that perfect. It should look real nice, and I'm expecting quality, but you don't need to spend, chisel out the walls kind of. So for us, it's been very
phones.
Yeah,
Making a lot of phone calls.
and that's it. You're talking to people who say, hey, who do you know that you would trust to refer me, or who do you know that you can, I should talk to? So right, it's totally. And then
Always. Yeah.
thankfully Loeffler, we went out to Edmonton, and he's got he connected with a property manager out there, Joseph, and Joseph's been a great resource to have to talk about market rents and what we should do. And through him, he's got a plethora of and so we're actually self-managing our building. But he knows we're going to have business for him, and he knows we're going to have referrals for him, and he understands that aspect. So he's like, yeah, you need something, you call me.
Young, he's ambitious. He's just starting his company too, so he's hungry. Like, he wants to go above and beyond. Same thing with the wholesalers we connected with, like a young group of guys. Like, they're energetic and they're working really hard.
And Ohio, when I went out there, so we bought 2 properties in Ohio from wholesalers we had never met. We'd never seen the properties other than through pictures and through video walkthroughs. We hired contractors who we never met. And then we hired a real estate agent who we never met. And she sold it, and we never stepped foot in Ohio, and we bought and sold 2 properties and renovated them. And for that, it was every single agent, hey, who do you know who can do this? You're talking to the contractors. You hear how they speak after a while too, once you've hired a bunch. Do they understand your goal? Do they know, okay, yeah, we're going to fix up the safety hazards and we're going to cosmetically make it nice, but we don't need to replace all your cabinets. We'll just paint them and change the hardware.
The realtor actually, Carly was.
She would go through and she blue tape anything that was wrong, and she was like a firecracker. She was brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I very highly recommend if
like-
you guys are looking in Columbus to work with Carly.
Worth your gold.
But that was that, and then we the riskiest one I would have said was our contractor, and Roberto or I forget what his name is. Yeah, I forget his name at this point. I'll have to look. It was the last year. Fernandez. That was his last name. But anyway, he ran a crew of Spanish lads, and the guy was brilliant. The guy was awesome, and he always picked up his phone. And I told the contractor, when any of the contractors that we've worked with, I said, it doesn't matter what happens. You can give me bad news. I can handle bad news. I'm a big boy. But you always pick up your phone. And if you don't pick up your phone, you text me, you say, I'll call you back. And you always get back to me that day or within 24, I shouldn't be sitting there waiting like, why isn't this contractor getting back to me? If you think back to past experiences that you've had, a lot of that stress and worry comes from not hearing something. And that's that whole culture of communication. Like, why is he not on site? What's going on here? And we had a window delivery that was supposed to come on time. And the company that we were the windows from botched the order. It was going to be 2 weeks out. It was going to push everything out. He called me every single day. Senor, windows are still not in. I just talked to them every day. I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
This is, you're being, upfront. And he could have had the windows in the back of his truck. It still made me feel better.
Yeah.
The other day. So
I also think too, when expanding to another market, I think the prospect of building out your network just seems so daunting, when really if you can get a really great dialed in realtor, you can get, say, a dialed in property management company or person, that really starts to do a lot of the work. And maybe say
You really only need one, honestly. Like, you just need Carly was fundamental because she was boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And she was like very detail oriented. So she would go in and be like, oh yeah, this, and this. And she gave great advice. Like, find one person maybe that you can trust. And then the other, like, she was helpful even managing like a lot of the trades and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
But they can start to build out the network for you too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's realtor, let's say, they can make introductions to property management companies.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, Carly Kupina, she works as part of a team, and her boss owns, I think, 1,300 units across the U.S. And so that's a connection that was made, and him and I are chatting, and so I was telling, I got to make a trip to Columbus at some point because I got a bunch of people I got to meet. It's like take a bunch of people for lunch or something like that, right? So you can kind of solidify some connection with these folks.
But it is crazy how one relationship in one market you've never been to or don't go too much can just like open up and just like, the connection through that one person.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem as daunting. I mean, we think about it, like got to get a flooring person, a painter, a contractor, like, all of these people. Well, I mean, really just start with one person and you make a lot of introductions.
Absolutely.
You can start to build out a network pretty damn quick.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah,
Totally.
very much so. There's like power in networking. Right?
Well, asking for the referrals, I think is brilliant. It's so simple.
Yes.
Totally.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
It is as long as you find one person who's not the shyster. Like as you said, you find the one key person, and then from there they'll surround themselves with good people.
Sure.
So yeah.
Any other questions in the room here?
Fund costs change from a contractor side for beer versus
We haven't delved too much into bigger jobs to know,
Not greatly.
but not as far as I've
Costs
heard.
are pretty static.
Good friends of mine are doing a condo deconversion right now in Edmonton for a 15-unit building. And so they're turning units around for about $13,000 a unit. I would expect to be in and around that $13,000 to $16,000 a unit here, let's say, for just simple flooring, paint, trim, and like maybe cabinetry or cabinet doors and countertop,
Yes. Just labor or just
labor and material.
Per unit.
You're not doing a full gut, though. This is not like down to the studs.
Cosmetics.
so they go you back?
Is it cheap or expensive?
It's
Yeah. Well, it's economies of scale too, right? They're doing 15 units. So they're sending their flooring guy to hit everything. They're sending their painter after to hit everything. So, yeah.
We also wouldn't be doing retail pricing on anything. It's like you at our own properties, nothing retail. But again, it's like if you're going into somebody's home to put flooring down, I mean, that price point's going to be very different than going into like a rental grade, right, property that you're just slapping something down quickly.
Yep. And once again, there's not plumbing or electrical appliances are staying the way they are. You know, your paint, flooring, fixtures, right? That's a big one. Backsplash. So, countertops.
So with your value add projects, it sounds like you do a lot of those working modules. And how much of that, how much time would those projects usually take for you, or like in your daily life? How much? What's the percentage of time that you would basically spend on managing those projects for those deals?
Like, I guess it depends on the size of the project. For like a duplex, let's say, it wouldn't be much. I'd swing by site twice a week, kind of thing, maybe 3 times a week. And then you have the guys that you can lean on that maybe just send you pictures that you're updated. You're getting updated on.
Do you know time for the full project from start to finish, or time on task, like managing the project?
Time out of my life, you mean? Or?
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're not swinging the hammer, as they say, when you're not there physically doing it, you're just guiding. And sometimes things go off course, so you're just kind of like tapping it back into place kind of thing once in a while. And the more you do, the more you can foresee like, we got to change that because that's going to affect the duct guy or the plumber or the electric, whatever, right? So
And the crew.
nowadays it's not a lot. And especially when you're doing stuff in like Edmonton or in Columbus, it was very strange. I'm used to going to site. So I'd be sitting there at my desk. I'm like, things just kind of happening. Just kind of, what do I do? Right? So, we
He's
do
busying himself and other things.
a virtual walkthrough, but it's like those 2 flips, I think it was like a sum total of maybe 20 hours each through the whole project. Yeah, and it was like a 25K net each, so 50K net total in USD. And like for very few hours, and you're buying a property at 150,000, you're putting 50,000 in, you're selling it for 250,000. Financing, everything once it all simmers down, let's say it's 25K net. That's what the projects look like. And it was, and it's crazy. There are so many opportunities in the U.S. because our focus has been more on like buying value at bigger buildings. I haven't been as attentive to those. I swear every day in my inbox, I've got 10 new flip opportunities that I could make 25,000 on. If I just want to start that as a separate business, I could.
Yeah. There's guys doing that. That's how they're doing full time. It's just,
A good guy for talk to would be Glenn Sutherland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and he does U.S. investing on steroids. He's like, so he's a really, really good guy, and he's done some pretty impressive things when it comes.
So how can the group, if anybody wanted to, participate with you guys and, get connected, how can they participate? Like, how can we help you guys in your journey?
Anybody would like to make money through real estate passively, let us know. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if our goals align. If anybody has needs property management services or contracting service, I mean, we have a full construction team. We don't service out this way, just we wouldn't be able to provide good service. Let's just being honest right now. But we do anything from Brantford all the way through to Welland, Niagara Falls, and that whole kind of horseshoe area. So
we'll put KWC on our vision board for maybe the next year. We'll have to work on our power team out here.
Yeah. But, the big thing is that if you or anybody that you know who's been interested in creating or becoming a part or having real estate as part of their diversified portfolio, what ways can you do that? You can, go out and do yourself and go through all the motions. And that's totally cool. That's how we did it.
Gain the knowledge.
And gain the knowledge.
Network.
Yeah. So that's one option. The second thing, you can invest in like a REIT, right? You can invest into these bigger conglomerates that have, funds or things like that. You can look for other sort of offerings, or you can get in on a syndication, and that's what we're aiming to do. We want people that we don't invest with people who are putting every last dime. It's just not the right fit, right? But people who are looking to passively invest in real estate and want to make some really serious returns, we've done quite well. So we're open to share the love.
Well, I think it could be such a win-win for the investor, for you, for everybody involved, because there's so much knowledge and everything that goes into being successful in real estate. I mean, you guys do it full time, right? And think about the amount of people that are part-time and or are very busy in their business, or whatever the case is, and would like a return on that capital but don't have the time, or and or the know-how to be able to partner with other people that are successful.
Most of our partners are either full-time professionals, engineers, teachers, lawyers, finance guys, or whatever, full-time jobs, have families, right? So the reality of it is, and I see it too, my brother is one guy who's he's working a 9 to 5, and he wants to kind of get into stuff like this too. There's no time. You have little kids, you have, obligations. By the time you're done your work, by the time you make dinner, by the time you put the kids to bed, you're just oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then it's so...
I thought of starting a side hustle at 9 p.m.
So what's really cool is that we've, all of our joint venture, we're picky who we joint venture with, because it is like a marriage. You're partnering with these people. We partner with we have partners who we've been working with now for 6+ years, right? And so we make sure, we have them over for dinner, we cook something together, we sit there, have a few drinks, we get to know each other a little bit, and then we just, we talk about what the plans are and what our goals look like. And it's been a really cool experience, because we've made some wicked friends through this process, to the point where one of my joint venture partners wound up at my brother's wedding, because it turns out he loves board games, and I was like, you should come play board games. And then my brother and all his friends, the next thing you know, he's invited to my brother's wedding. And it's
now he's in all our family events.
Yeah, so he celebrated Christmas with us one year, because his whole family is from Italy, and my mom's bring him over or whatever, it's but you can do some really cool stuff like that. You can change someone else's life. You can the amount of people that are so cool out there that you get to it's just perspective, a different world you get to meet, so.
That's a great way to onboard a potential investor. You have them over for dinner and drinks.
Yeah.
That's the initial meeting.
Who doesn't like dinner and drinks? Everyone's got to eat.
Yeah. I don't know. Bonding over a meal is
you got to break bread. You do. Honestly, it's
especially you're in business together, right? So it's I feel like a lot of cultures, that's a very meaningful thing to do.
We always do a celebratory dinner, and it's a no holds barred dinner with partners when we get our money out. So it doesn't matter how long. So because the deal is that the property pays for it. So I think our biggest bill was just over $1,000 for 4 of us. You're ordering the tomahawk and the champagne. It's I think we could probably go even further. I'm sure people have spent a lot more than $1,000 a day. But
we felt like that was over the top extravagant.
But yeah, it's it's fun to have those experiences once in a while.
Yeah.
And to not feel it's oh, this is really burdensome, because it's we're not paying for it. The property is paying for it.
Yeah.
It was a huge win and a great way to celebrate it. So,
So I have your Instagrams up here. Also, your YouTube channel. Do you want to touch on anything in relation to content that people can follow you on?
So palpropertysolutions.com would probably be the best mode. Through that, it would link to Solutions Property Management and Alex's and ours YouTube, and then our social medias are on there as well.
Yep. I'm actually going to be branching out to a different segment of a YouTube channel, still under the Pal Property Solutions umbrella, but I'm going to be teaching how to run numbers and forecast multifamily properties.
This could be dedicated YouTube.
This is going to be super nerd.
No, way back.
Excel sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Excel sheets.
Way back to the fundamentals. When we first started making videos, and it was Alex in our office in the condo, with a whiteboard.
Yeah.
MAO,
Yeah.
all this.
But this is
And about that whiteboard content.
well,
Honestly, it's fun to watch, right?
I plan to get more I find that there's not a lot of really good details on here's a property. How do I analyze this multifamily property in such a way that it's going to I can understand what my return on investment is. What is the return on investment for my partners? How does the cash flow get distributed? it becomes this like big beast that's complicated. I'm going to aim to break all that down and then eventually do videos where I'm running numbers quick on a property and another one, and then, so that's the plan anyway.
Well, let us know once that's all launched, because that sounds awesome. I mean, we could keep this conversation going all night. And
Alex, still having you on. You guys can excel together.
You playing tonight?
Excel races.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys can obviously follow them all on social media to keep up with their journey. Would love to have you guys back at some point in the future.
For sure. You call us. We're here, man. We're big supporters of you guys. So
Love you guys.
For everybody here, thanks for coming out. The QR code's on the wall. If you're a guest, just a reminder, scan yourself in so you keep up to date with future events. And if there's nothing else for anybody to share, I think we're going to call it a wrap. The front door is now closed, but you can still go out until 9 o'clock, and then everybody else has to go through the back door. So everybody's good to go through the front, but about 8:45, if we're still hanging out, I'll take you guys through the back, just so everybody knows. But thank you guys so much for coming out. We'll wrap it up, but we can have a spontaneous round of applause for Alex again.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.